Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Spider-Man Miles Morales. We're still helping Uncle Aaron get the trains up and running. 'Cause after all, in the entire city of New York, he can't only have one guy doing everything.
Yep. Oof.
Listen,
Ouch.
it's Thor's day off. Cut him some slack. Miles has got to do it.
So, why is this a mission that leads us into, combat?
Well, this is stealth.
I thought that they were like there was somebody like doing shit to the trains because of reasons.
Yes, there were people doing shit to the trains because of reasons.
Okay.
Wonderful. I like that stumble. It's a sensible animation because, Miles isn't as used to doing all this acrobatic shit as Peter is yet. So he has those little amateurish little stumbles and stuff in his animation set.
The animation in this game is just phenomenal, for the record.
Oh, yes. Like, there's a lot to be cynical about when it comes to AAA games and pushing hyper-graphical fidelity as the main selling point.
But yeah, no, this game is very, very pretty. One thing I am generally happy about in terms of game hardware is that it seems that the push is more towards performance versus graphics, which is a weird thing to say considering that they are somewhat similar, but it's more about getting a game that looks good and runs smoothly as opposed to getting the most realistic image possible, which is something I think I generally prefer.
We reached a point where the intense high fidelity graphics and high poly models and really intense shaders and lighting systems, those are the kind of things that only the real hardware nerds actually care about. It's far more impressive for the overall big picture to look better than it is for the individual details to look good. And that's why the RE Engine games, for example, are so well received in the graphics department. Because, they look good when you just look at the entire screen, even though you could probably linger in a room and look down at a pile of leaves on the ground and go, ew, that texture is awful.
I mean, people still do that. Like, I remember...
Well, yeah, I know. That was an example I picked with great deliberacy.
But I'm thinking of Fire Emblem Three Houses. Like, a lot of that game looks fine, but people were like, oh, there's grapes that look bad. And then I'm like...
Okay, in Three Houses' case, I'm going to stop you because there are issues with the general graphic style of that game. A lot of the animations are quite stiff. The aliasing is fucking atrocious on native hardware, and the backgrounds in cutscenes, the background images that happen during the quasi visual novel cutscenes, they are extremely ugly and low resolution.
I mean, I haven't played the game, but I like the bits I've seen. I didn't mind the graphics, but I also haven't played the game. I haven't looked at it.
Yeah.
The only thing that I looked at it, and this is speaking as primarily a handheld gamer, is that I hated how small the text size was. Because I've seen pictures of people trying to play the game in handheld mode, and it's practically impossible because of how small, you can't read anything.
That's interesting, because I don't think the text in Three Houses is particularly small. Whoa.
I think they might have done an update to make it bigger. If I remember correctly.
I don't
but
know.
it is something that you have to keep in mind with handheld games, is that a lot of the text on console games is fairly small because on a big TV it's big enough. But when you start playing on a smaller screen, you have to squint really hard.
Yeah, but I'm just thinking proportional to the screen size. I don't think there's much difference between Three Houses and, say, the text in any of the given 3DS games.
Again, I have not played Three Houses for myself. I don't remember exactly how big it was, but is something that I noticed looking at it. Hold on.
Of course, the entire game is voice acted, so the size of the text may not matter.
Oh, it'll matter for like when you're choosing skills and shit and like upgrades and whatnot. But hold on.
Fair enough.
3 houses text. Yeah. Yeah. One of the when I search 3 houses text, the first thing that pops up is a Reddit thread asking for help to try to make it bigger. But yeah, looking at this, it's just a little small. It's more of a font problem actually. Now that I'm looking at it, because they have this really thin.
No one in fucking 2023 can read a serif font. Ugh.
Yeah, well, it's not the problem that it's serif. It's just that it's really thin and also serif.
Well, that's what serif fonts are. I mean,
yeah, you can have a thicker serif.
I have a serious vendetta against the overabundance of sans serif fonts in everything these days, and it's like, okay, apparently it's more readable. I mean, I can't speak to that because I have no trouble reading serif fonts in any context, but they all look so cheap. They all look so pasted in. They look so stock.
I think it depends on the type of game and story you're trying to tell. Like in case of Fire Emblem, which has a grander vibe, and fantasy orientation or whatnot, old timey.
Yeah.
Like a serif font makes sense.
Yeah, I've never liked that aspect of Skyrim where you're in this sort of like Nordic fantasy, but the UI and the font and the text font all look super modern. And it's just like, why?
Versus, I'm comparing it to something like Paper Mario, which I will never shut up about until the remake comes out. Like having the sans serif, almost Comic Sans-y like font makes sense for that game, considering it's like storybook based and
it's very
comedic and whatnot.
It's very cartoony. More to the point, the Mario series has a set of fonts that they've used enough times that you look at the font and you can tell just by looking at it that it is a Mario font.
Dude, when they changed the font in Ace Attorney, I was actually extremely annoyed. The DS games all had a very specific font that was great. And it was actually, it was like a very thin, like it's a pixely font, granted, because it's a fucking port of a GBA game. But it's like a very specific kind of thin, very readable font. And the font in the 3DS games is way thicker, and it just looked wrong. I'm also not really a huge fan of the font in the remakes, not the remakes, but the remasters either. Because if I look at the fonts here, like yeah, it's not quite, I'm talking about like the real text, not like the objection thing, but like, hold on, I'm using my Google powers for the record. Yeah, so I'm looking here when I've got a screenshot of the Game Boy game right here, and it's like a very digital font, which obviously is a restriction of the hardware, but it works. It's readable, and it fits the tone well enough. And I know we sound like the nerdiest fucking people right now talking about font differences in games. I also don't care.
I think it's a discussion worth having because a lot of people undersell the importance of what the text looks like in a game where you're going to be spending quite that long reading the stuff. And that's the kind of thing that leads to lazy-ass decisions like the Final Fantasy Pixel remasters, having their fucking cheap iOS font that has to be manually replaced by the player.
Yeah, so now I'm looking at the font in Dual Destinies, and it's way rounder looking, which is when you're looking at a digital font that's very sharp, and then having a rounder looking font, it's a big shift, and yes. I get that Ace Attorney gets silly, but with that said, it's still a crime story, and they do get tense, and that very, very slightly does undermine it when the font looks weird like that.
This is another.
And then
go ahead.
I was gonna say, and then when they went to the Great Ace Attorney ports on Switch, they shifted to a more Times New Roman looking font, which is good. It's like, it's not special in any way, but it fits the tone and works.
You know, for all my raging against sans serif fonts, I actually find Times New Roman 12 times more boring than any of them, so...
I mean, it's boring, but it's like, it's the mashed potatoes of fonts. It's not the most interesting part of the meal, but it works and it'll get the job done. It'll fit with almost anything.
Well, maybe it has to do partly with how the font looks in Microsoft Word, which is where I see it most often. But
yeah,
fonts tend to look always a bit off in Microsoft Word, no matter what you
versus
do.
on a page, yeah. Like
yeah.
In a real, like a physical book.
The thing about... the example that I was going to bring up for the kind of effect a font can have on a game. All right, slightly controversial one, because I know the HD remasters of Tales of Symphonia are the literal devil to some people, but the PS3 and PC remaster of Tales of Symphonia redid all the text box windows as far as like, if I seem to remember them having a different font in any case. And it looks so gloriously fantasy, you know?
So I know that, like, for Tales of Symphonia on GameCube, it depends on what you're looking at, because like the arts and whatnot have like this really cartoony looking font, and then if I'm looking at, hold on, let me look up specifically a GameCube screenshot of Tales of Symphonia. Yeah, so on GameCube for Tales of Symphonia, it has this kind of not quite like kind of handwritten almost looking font.
Ooh.
It's like not like messy, but like it looks like somebody, you know, writing out letters very slowly in a someone with neat handwriting writing the words. Versus if I look up the when you look up the remaster font, it definitely looks more like a typeset. It's got like kind of fancy, like you said, fantasy, like what you would see in like an old like in an old medieval book kind of font looking to it.
Yeah.
Which I'm not sure which one I prefer, to be honest. I never finished Tales of Symphonia. I'm pretty sure I've told this story before on the channel, but I got to the point of the game where you unlock the airship, or the air motorbikes in this case, and stopped playing for 2 weeks, and then couldn't pick it back up again.
Yeah.
So never, like, if you're gonna put an RPG down for a couple of weeks, don't do it when you just unlock the airship. It's literally the worst time in the game to do that. But I'm not sure which font I would prefer. I would probably have to see. Although I have heard some very bad things about the remaster. Some people swear it's like you're right in that some people would say that it ate their firstborn child.
There are some additional issues with the PC port that need to be smoothed over with like a performance mod fix. But the big thing seems to be, it runs at 30 FPS instead of 60 FPS. It's a fucking RPG. Who cares? Ugh.
Oh, Lewis, it's actually an action RPG.
Well, yeah, but it's not the kind of action RPG that requires swift reflexes, so it really doesn't matter all that much.
I mean, that was my big problem with Tales of Symphonia, was that the action felt pretty button mashy. So, like, I don't think it being 30 FPS would really matter. I mean, for people who played the game a lot, maybe, sure.
Well,
but
Tales of games have this weird kind of hybrid action RPG system that that focuses more on like the specific direction and the button you press when you press it to trigger an attack, I think. or which button you press in a sequence of 4 and in what order?
Yeah, it's meant to be a little bit more simple because you can actually have 4 people playing the game at the same time. Like it's meant as like a party RPG, in kind of a way. You can have 4 GameCube controllers plugged in and everybody participating in battles. I'm sure if you played the game like that, the fights would become an absolute joke. But it is something you can do. If you're tired of playing Dokapon Kingdom, you can pull out Tales of Symphonia, I suppose. I guess just personally speaking, I found that there was it was a little shallow, personally. But I also haven't played the game in a long time. My opinion might change if I were to go back to it.
Yeah, man, I still need to play Tales of Symphonia seriously. It's like I have all of the Tales games that you could possibly get on Steam by this point. But I haven't had time to play them, and on the occasions when I thought I had time to play them, I always dithered about which one to play. Do I play Symphonia? Nah, I don't really like the chibi look of the characters in game. Do I play Zestria? Do I play Arise? Arise is nice. Arise is neat. But apparently it's a massive grind because they wanted to push the microtransaction stuff, and I don't really have.
Wait, they did that in a Tales of game?
I think so. It was something like that.
God.
Apparently there's DLC. There's a DLC epilogue thing coming out for Arise soon too. So I don't know.
Didn't that game come out like 4 or 5 years ago?
Arise?
Yeah.
I don't think it was 4 or 5 years ago at this point.
I thought it was a while ago.
It was a bit of a while ago, but I don't think it was that long ago.
Okay, I appreciate that Namco has learned to put real words in the titles of their game, but Tales of Arise is not
it's not a grammatically sound series of words. No.
September 9th, 2021, so 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's about what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I bought that game around the time it came out, and I haven't played it yet. Well, I did play the demo, and I was kind of sold on just the demo because it looks so pretty and it moves so smooth. And it's just like, I know that just the basic experience of playing this game is going to be entertaining. But the grindy aspect is putting me off. I'm gonna say.
Whoa, hold on. You just knocked that guy off a building.
Yeah, he'll be fine.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
Don't worry.
It's comic book land.
Somewhere between Spider-Man...
That guy literally landed from a 30-foot fall on top of another building and then slapped off and fell off that building too.
I like the timing on that ambient dialogue. He kicks a guy off a building directly into the goddamn street, where the traffic will kill him if the 40-story drop didn't. And then he says, I think I'm getting this hero thing down. No, you fucking aren't. Come on.
Literally just committed three instances of manslaughter, my dude.
Now, I'm pretty sure that goes straight to 3rd-degree murder.